And we're live. I think we're live. The my alternate stream's like 14 seconds behind. We'll find out here in a second. So come here, lean in some. So yeah, our intern McKenna, who was part of our admin crew at Origins, has popped in to say hi real quick. She's actually headed off to bed because got to get up early tomorrow for school. So McKenna wanted to say
boo, hi. Boo.
Show off her wants to go to school and show off the shirt. There we go. We got some Dragoons swag going on there. And then she's going to, those of you coming to Origins next year, she is planning on being back as a part of our admin team. And we're going to have more work for her to do next year because we're expecting a whole lot more people and events. So, all right. So there goes McKenna saying good night. That was her cue to leave. All right, Mike, what are you drinking tonight?
Bourbon. I've got a, what is this? This is a barrel seagrass.
All right. Rocky, what'd you grab? Anything?
I got just some seltzer, hard seltzer.
Keeping it clean. I have the usual cider because the hard stuff will knock me out well before our couple hours are up here on the show. So
that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, well, all right, fair enough.
That or I'll buy an armful of games again. Is one of the two.
Yeah, did that last.
That's after we're off the air.
Yeah.
You gotta wait. The reference Mike is making. Once upon a time, many podcasts ago, we were doing a conversation about sales that companies were having or something or other. I don't remember exactly what the podcast topic was, but we stopped recording on the podcast, and between Mike, Gary, and Mirth, they ordered like $600 worth of games between the three of them before we were done hanging up on the. And this was after we were done recording. They were all sort of showing up and hey, I found this for sale over here, and everybody go order a copy of it. And I found this one for sale at GMT, and everybody go order a copy of it. So yeah, $600 or so of games later, the three of them were well stocked on new merchandise. So. Yes. So, Rocky, we totally shanghaied you into hanging out with us on the podcast one time, and like,
yes, absolutely.
If I recall correctly, wasn't it the one about the sort of game ripoffs with the guys that made up Insurgent Catan or whatever it was?
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but you somehow made me one for that episode. So yes,
you played one well on the podcast.
I can pretend.
Yes, but that was we were talking sort of game ripoffs and not just that one, although that conversation was the one that sort of inspired the whole episode.
Right. Yes.
And
gotta wonder where they are these days.
You know, I thought about it the other day actually because Catan came up in a totally different conversation. I was wondering whatever happened to those dudes, and I never followed up to go back and look. So. No. If anybody out there in audience land is curious, go look up Insurgent Catan. Kind of curious what, if anything, ever happened with that. It was a couple of guys at the Naval Postgraduate School used Catan as the underlying structure for a game they designed and then went off and tried to patent it. and I don't remember if the patent even got granted, but yeah, they tried to run off with Catan as their insurgent game. So. And Mike, you've been here since the beginning, all 5 years.
I have been here all 5 years. You know, I went back and looked, and according to my member information on the forum, I joined 11 days later. I don't know why.
Sleep.
Because you and I talked about it before it even existed, right? And setting it up and everything. So I don't know why it happened.
Yeah, we'd had some conversations going back a little ways, but the part of the point we had with the Dragoons was not just, you know, throw a bunch of reviews up there and have a forum where people are BSing about stuff, but we wanted to help folks kind of get the most out of their games. And sometimes that's reviews, sometimes that's AAR, sometimes that's help people find stuff on sale. Part of what we wanted to do was try and help organize some actual gameplay as a part of that. And when we were setting all this up in the fall of 2018, really we're thinking, you know, let's help organize some gameplay at some stores. Let's help get involved with some more conventions. And you know, we were back at Origins in 2019 where we'd been running the Wargame HQ. The people had, you know, under another name, but we'd been running the Wargame HQ for several years. we added Buckeye Game Fest in there that we would show up and support Gary's efforts at the war room. But then, the pandemic hit, and we're like, well, shit, I guess we're not playing games in person anymore, at least not for a little while. But yeah, our buddy Cyrano and a whole bunch of the Dragoons had been doing a bunch of online gaming already up to that point using Tabletop Simulator. And it's kind of funny, like the pandemic hit, suddenly everybody wanted to play with TTS, and we just sort of shrugged and went, we've been doing this for months, we'll keep doing it. And that's what they've been doing. And in fact, that's where several of them are right now. They've got, I think they're doing Dresden tonight. No, they're not. They're doing a Chain of Command game tonight. And so Cyrano will be by a little later. But Mike, you've done a handful of Origins. You've done a Mace. You haven't done a BGF yet.
Nope. That was supposed to be this year, maybe next year.
Yeah. Have you hopped into any of the Saturday Night Fights games or any of the TTS games online?
I threatened to early on, but never. I'll take that back. I think at one of the digital conventions I did play in one of the Cyrano's games. Yeah.
All right.
I think it was Command and Colors.
one of the big epic scale ones.
It was a large one. It was, of course, Napoleonics, which I'm eagerly awaiting. And I finally get to my own copy of that, right?
Yeah. So, and Rocky, I don't know that you've ever hopped into one of the TTS games yet.
Only to look. Sometimes I lurk in there and watch what's going on. For the longest time, I had a very not a very good computer, so I had to beg off. Now I got a better computer. I just haven't made the time. So, nope.
So, yeah. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Yeah, there were a variety of things that we had some plans for, and different circumstances sort of kind of changed some of those plans. Obviously, if you look in our article categories, one of the things we had was War Game Night. And Mike, I think we talked about this very early on. One of the things that in Brant's crazy world of wouldn't this be cool if we had this idea of if we could get like the same night a week that we had multiple games going on across the country, either at different game stores or people's backyards or whatever, that we could get some folks to just sort of turn on a webcam and we'd run like a live stream where we'd kind of pop in, say hi to folks, talk to people while they're playing, whatever it was. It'd be almost sort of baseball night in America as a war game broadcast, and thought that'd be kind of cool. Like it would take a little while to ramp this thing up and get to where we're organized enough to do that stuff. But what's up, amigo? And we thought it'd be kind of cool to do all that. And then of course the pandemic hit and suddenly nobody's playing games with each other. And that's the thing is it's kind of odd how much the pandemic has kind of shaped a lot of the things that we ended up doing unintentionally. But I think, overall, it's been a bit of a net positive for sort of bringing the community together through all these digital tools. The wider wargaming community, especially, not just like the Dragoons and their folks, because these days, like Gary's Monday night show is like one of the tent poles of the wargaming community, and that's kind of cool. And that sort of stuff doesn't happen if everybody's actually able to leave their house for 8 months. So, hey, Mike, what's some of the bigger changes you've seen in the 5 years that we've been cranking through all this stuff?
The bigger changes I've seen, I think we've honestly, I think the biggest improvement is the front page, and I think the biggest improvement there is Tuesday Newsday. I think that's our biggest accomplishment.
Sucking up to the host again.
No, I think it is. I really do. I think it's because I every Tuesday I'm looking forward to that popping up, and I think it's a very helpful article to read.
Yeah. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, that is as much as Artie's counter clipping is part of the tent poles. Tuesday Newsday doesn't get enough credit for everything it does for bringing all the news together in the war game world.
Yeah.
All right. For the record, I did not pay these guys to say this. So.
Not yet.
Yes, you did.
Not in cash, right? Confederate money. Oh. So,
and I think then the other big change is I think we did, of course, the digital conventions that started during the pandemic, and then starting in October, our first in-person convention, which is I'm looking forward to.
And Rocky's supposed to be there.
Yes, so far.
All right, that's good to hear.
Yeah, he's supposed to make the trek down here and come hang out with us and have a couple of drinks and sling some dice and whatever else. So,
not necessarily in that order.
Agreed. Yeah, so for the couple of folks that may not know, or folks watching this a little later, like our first in-person convention that we are running all on our own is coming in this fall in October. We're going to be, we're actually taking over about half the store at Gamers Armory here in Cary. So it's one of the better war game stores in the country. They're giving us about half the store to take over for our convention. The challenge, of course, is that the little shopping center that they're in doesn't have a whole lot of great food options. Like there's a McDonald's across the parking lot and a Jersey Mike's and a Dairy Queen, but like not that far away are a couple of pretty good eats. So I suspect we'll be able to grab some decent food up and down Walnut Street there. So, but yeah,
so it's a little better than
no
WBC.
How well
I
this
guess.
is going to go. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
It's a little better than WBC, I guess, from what I hear.
As
far as food goes.
First of all, that seems to be a little bar to clear from what we've heard. That said, one of the advantages of WBC, of course, is that they're in a hotel, so they've got like the rooms and everything right there. I suspect we will eventually ramp up to that, assuming this first one goes okay. We got to get through the first one before we start getting creative and doing too much else. So, Joe, again, sucking up to the host here. Do appreciate that. I'm sure Gary would love to hear about his Monday stream being again one of those tent poles in the hobby. And really, I think it's not just the topics Gary talks about, because that's pretty cool, but like there's a lot of chat and a lot of camaraderie that kind of develops in that chat going on in parallel to Gary's talks. And it's interesting. It's very similar to what you see from the Georgetown University Wargaming Society webinars when they have their webinars going. Now, again, those are a little more professionally focused, a little less hobby focused. Great crossover appeal in both cases. But if you're ever in one of the Goose webinars, it's almost like there's an entirely parallel thing happening in the chat between people asking and answering questions there alongside what's happening with the actual presenter, which is always kind of entertaining. You almost want to cut and paste the chat at the end of it and keep it for the side conversations. So, Rocky, you haven't been with us for the full 5 years, obviously, but in the 5 years that you've seen in gaming over the last, over the last 5 years, but certainly, including the pandemic and then coming out of it, what are some of the bigger changes you've seen in kind of the hobby over that time frame?
The biggest change I've seen is I mean, like look behind me. I mean, the board game, war game, in many ways, sometimes the meeting and crossing over between what used to be the niche, and the niche now is reaching into the other part, or is the other part reaching into the niche? Can't really tell for sure, but there's this, I mean, even just 5 years ago, Hex Encounter was still the thing. And nowadays there is such a wide variety of different games you can play. And not just in person on a tabletop. Now you have digital implementations of it. Again, going beyond just Hex Encounter. I mean, the cards and all these other, even having a die roller in there that actually looks like something, not just a random number generator screen to the side. I mean, the whole hobby has just continually, the creativity in the last 5 years has just absolutely exploded. And the bringing of the people together to explore all these new spaces with that has been the most incredible part. That's been the most fun ride, is just seeing where the hobby's going next.
Yeah. It is kind of fun to watch on Tabletop Simulator when a couple of those games, when it's, okay, you're rolling 34 dice and you've got the little dice fountain of dice shooting off everywhere. Those are always entertaining animations to watch as they start blowing up everywhere. I still think Cyrano's ultimate end game is going to be to put VR goggles on everybody and have you walking through the battlefield as everyone's running around you. And that's how you're going to control what's happening on the battlefield. I really think that's what he wants to get to.
Closer than you think.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. No, he's had Velker pop in VR in Tabletop Simulator because there are some mods you can plug in for it. And the controls are even wonkier than they are with a mouse, but you can kind of inhabit the Tabletop Simulator world and pick pieces up and move them around. So it's getting there. It is kind of neat how it's currently working. So, yeah, if I didn't realize that Compass had their town hall going tonight, I know they do them semi-infrequently. So maybe we'll get some more folks wander over here now that they're done. Curious what Bill's rant was tonight, but not enough to have watched the town hall.
We'll hear about it tomorrow if we have to.
Probably. I was watching Artie and Dan talking with Mike Nagel, talking some naval wargaming stuff. So one thing that is kind of annoying when we pop the comments up from below, it completely screws up our pictures in the frames.
That could be a positive depending how you look at it, though.
Yeah, well, we went and built these nice frames for our backgrounds, and as soon as we throw a comment up there, it screws up our frames. So,
it just brings us back to real life.
Yes, sort of screws with our Zoom. So Jeff, Joe Mintum, Meandering Mike, Grant over at Pushing Cardboard, great podcast, by the way. Y'all should totally check him out. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that's Greg hiding behind the Pico Armor name. Greg was with us at Origins this year with a beautiful big Pico Armor layout. And if that's not Greg behind the Pico Armor name, then hey, Pico Armor was there with Greg with a big, beautiful, massive 3D table layout. What was kind of cool, we had the Pico Armor game set at, I think it was 4 players each with the ability to expand up to 6, but we set the registration at 4 each. And if we overfilled, okay, great. There were a couple of times where we had walk-ups that were loading 5 and 6 people into a single game, which was really cool. It was nice to see. So Jeff is asking sort of how did we get started? Honestly, there were a handful of us that had belonged to other wargaming communities over the years. Quite frankly, a lot of us met and started to get to know each other back in the old wargamer.com days in the early 2000s, early and mid 2000s, back when David Heath still owned the Wargamer. And a lot of us got to know each other through the forums there. Some of us were writing for Wargamer. There were some issues with changes in ownership and management, and a couple of us bounced around some other sites. We finally started our own site at a different place. And after a couple of years, it was starting to take its toll on a few of us for various reasons we're not going to hash out here in a live stream and a broadcast. But me and Mike and Bob and Mirth and a couple other folks were talking and said, look, let's reboot. And we did. We rebooted. And that's where the Dragoons came about. The name was kind of funny. I was like just throwing a lot of random names into the URL searches to see what was available. I was actually texting with Gary at the time. Hey, what do you think of this one? Hey, what do you think of this one? And Armchair Dragoons was available. It sounded kind of cool. It was along the lines of things we wanted to do, and it was sufficiently different enough from other things we'd done before that we grabbed it and ran with it. And again, early on, it was sort of half magazine, half forum community, because it took us a little while to ramp up to the level of event stuff that we do these days. But nowadays, I think some of the events that we do are just as big a deal as any of our other content. I'm kind of proud of some of the stuff we've done for some of those events. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know how many wargamers we've necessarily converted over the years, but we've certainly exposed a lot of people to wargaming, which is a net positive, I think. Mike and I were the only 2 wargamers at Mace. We certainly were out of place there. But it was a fun weekend. Yeah. It was a fun weekend. So we were crammed in a room with a whole bunch of Battletech dudes and a couple of other stray things.
And a dripping air conditioner. Don't forget that. Actually, it's condensation off the vents, but yeah. So we both got Legionnaire's disease.
No, the Mace has always been an RPG heavy convention. Mace is actually no more at this point. the man who had originally founded and run Mace for about 25 years passed away early last year, early 2022. It was a very short battle with pancreatic cancer that unfortunately Jeff lost. And so the planning was already underway for Mace in 2022. A couple of the guys that were part of that committee stepped in to keep it running. I have my cups behind me. It was Jeff Kahn. It was the final Mace in honor of Jeff Smith, who had been the founder. And there's a new organization made up of a bunch of people that used to work with Mace that have rebooted the whole thing as Mythic Con. And it's staying in the same rough time slot, mid-November, same time as Compass Expo and SD Hist, actually. It's still going to be in Charlotte. So it's kind of centrally located for folks in the Southeast. But it is a different organization running it, even though spiritually it's kind of the same thing. So with us having our convention this fall in October, we're taking a pass on Mythic Con. Not that we don't like them and don't wish them well. It's just that's a lot for us to be able to try and do multiple things back to back like that. So Mike's retired. He's got time to deal with that stuff. The rest of us, not so much. So
you would think that. That is certainly not true. Everybody says when I retire, I'm going to play this monster game, that monster game, but I'm here to tell you it don't work like that. At least not in the first year.
So, but Rocky, you managed to hit Circle DC this past year.
I did. It was first time in a long time I've made it to an in-person convention.
Well, I mean, there was a pandemic in the way, but
Yeah, well, there was also like 20 some years of, or maybe 30 years of
of
40
getting married and raising kids. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I went back and I thought about it. I mean, before Circle DC, the last in-person convention I went to was actually Genghis Khan back in the 1980s. So, in Denver. So that was like high school time,
Wow.
Back in the Stone Ages. But yeah, Circle DC was here. Kevin from Fourth Circle Games, a very interesting venue. An interesting venue with the Egyptian god figures and such around. But it was actually a really great little convention. I mean, it was everybody was there to play. Everyone was there to look around, see the different games. It really is what I always wanted in a good little friendly, just a friendly little game convention. Sit down, throw some dice, share some camaraderie, see some new stuff, see some old stuff, and just have a fun time.
Yeah.
The fact that I could drive to it was also nice, and
it's a bonus. It's Circle DC is coming back again this year. It's going to be a little earlier in the year. It's interesting. Basically, Circle DC and Buckeye Game Fest have kind of flipped places in the calendar. So Circle DC is going to be late March, early April, and then Buckeye Game Fest is going to be at the end of April, where it rolls into May. So we're gonna have a couple of folks there. And speaking of Buckeye Game Fest, we're gonna have to totally swap out our background stuff here because we're gonna bring in our buddy Ardwolf here. Gary,
hey, how's it going?
There he is.
There I am.
Did you have to wrench yourself away from Starfield, or did you?
I was going to say, yeah.
Firing it up.
It's actually about time for me to. I actually, because I went from the show. I really just wanted to make sure it was running, so I was going to be okay. So I played 20 minutes or something like that. I got through the character creator, and that's about it. So
well, wait. One question. Did you die in character creation?
I did not. It seemed pretty close though, and at one point there were some close calls.
Strike one for Starfield.
I mean, Starfield was in fact inspired by Traveler, so it's not.
You can get video coming Tuesday if all goes according to plan.
Yeah. This is great. I think I'm the least Traveler person on this podcast, on this broadcast at this moment.
Well, not awesome for you. For you, it's lame.
Yeah,
but you're used to that too. So
I have played Traveler. The biggest problem I had with Traveler growing up is
that he died in character creation.
Well, but there just weren't a lot of other Traveler players around me, and I think part of the problem was Traveler wasn't something that was regularly carried in the military exchanges on base. And so a lot of folks that, growing up on military bases, moving around a bunch, you sort of played what was available, and the TSR stuff was readily available. So there were a lot more of us that played Star Frontiers than Traveler because that's what we could get. And it's not that folks didn't like Traveler or anything, just you couldn't find it where we were. So
wasn't that easy for us to find either, to be honest. There was one hobby store in Illyria that carried it. And I don't really remember seeing it anywhere else in that same period where I'd have been looking for it, like 81, 82, 83.
Yeah. That's that's the time I started with role-playing stuff. I'd been wargaming for a couple of years by then, just learning from my dad more than anything. But that's the part where I kind of struck out on my own and was role-playing a little more. And like the old D&D Aero Lotus cover, red box and blue box were easy to find.
It's really more of a magenta.
Well, sure. Fuchsia. Yeah. Especially compared to the Elmore red box a couple years later.
Well, that was just red.
Yes,
very red.
Straight up red. But the Star Frontiers was easier to find. Top Secret was easier to find because they were the TSR products that everybody was carrying.
Right. But more lame.
Yeah. Well, sure.
What are you gonna do?
But yeah, so hoping Starfield keeps you pretty well engaged. And I asked my son if he was going to take a look at Starfield at all, just knowing that it was the new thing coming out. A recent DLC dropped for Destiny 2 about a week and a half ago, and the competitive raid opens up this weekend. My son's already got it on the family calendar on the fridge. Raid all day, raid all day, raid all day. He's got a team that he's joining, and so he's they're going to try and speed run this thing. Hey Mo
from Mo's Game Tables here,
and so he had a team that when the last big raid deal, actually I think it was 2 raids ago at this point. He and his team at one point, they were leading the planet. They were the number one team on Earth getting through this thing. And it wasn't going to last, right? The South Koreans hadn't woken up yet with all their high-speed lines and like 40 people on a team to like blow through the levels and stuff. They weren't going to win, but for a while, they were the number one team on the planet. And then one of their dudes just like disappeared. His character's still there, but he wasn't answering. We don't know if like his mom got pissed off and unplugged this computer or something, but they couldn't move on without him because you got to take your whole team with you. So they kind of got stuck and never actually finished the raid on that run because they got stuck with this dude that disappeared. So yeah, he's popped into a different team here. So so Ian, Mike, I don't know if one or either of you guys we're gonna take off. Mike's taking off. Everybody's pointing at Mike. Or is Mike sticking around? Rocky, I don't care. Like, you guys can stick around for a while. So
I ain't afraid to talk, as we've established. So.
I'm looking forward to it. That's why I just refilled.
We're rotating a whole bunch of folks through this evening, in part because then we can get a bunch of different folks saying hi without it looking like the Hollywood Squares on here, which Gary was very much in favor of. But
you could have turned that into something fun. I mean, you can't just throw 50 people on the screen and expect it's going to work out. You got to have a plan.
Yes,
but you could have totally made the Hollywood Squares work.
I was about to say, when have we ever had a plan? Come on,
I could be Paul Lynn.
Yeah, I guess that would make me J.P. Morgan, right?
And Rocky's Charles Nelson Riley.
There you go.
Man, we are showing our age now. Everybody's like, who?
All the youngsters are like, who are these people talking
Okay, guys,
about?
we have an audience of war gamers. How many youngsters are actually out there?
Oh, there's more than you think, but not, my audience skews a little older. It's not like, I do look at these demographics from time to time, and it's not like 90% of my audience is 70 plus. It's not like that. It skews older, right? The center of the bell curve is in like, I think the 45 to 55.
Yeah, but let's be honest here. Like on this broadcast right now, I am the youngest dude here, and I am on the north side of 50.
You're but a sprout.
Yeah. I am still the youngest wargamer in the room and have been for 15 years.
The rest of us will now begin referring to you as boy.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Young
That's
man.
that's probably more polite than some of the options I've gotten from
Possibly, yeah. It's not infrequent that I'm the youngest person in the room, but our young friend Jordan screwed that up by coming to Winterfest at the ripe old age of like 25. So
Yeah.
he has blown the curve for everybody. Thanks, Jordan. Much appreciated.
Well,
No, we love him here. He's great. We just, he's the youngest person in the room. And
to be fair, one of the primary contributions of David Thompson to the wargaming world is just being younger than everybody else. Right?
And yes, and handsomer as well.
Yeah, besides the better looking, which is again low bar to clear. But
well, that's fair.
Yeah. So Gary, one of the things we were talking with Mike and Rocky about is sort of the big changes you've seen in the wargaming world over the last 5 years. And one of the things we all mentioned before you got here was just some of the coalescing community events that have happened, especially during and shortly after the pandemic, like your Monday night stream was one that got a couple of mentions. In terms of some of the changes you've seen in the last 5 years in our niche of the hobby, what do you think it kind of jumps out at you as something?
There's been like a couple of interesting trends that have kind of intersected over the last, in say that period, right? On the one hand, you've got this board game renaissance, which I think is partially driven by a bit of backlash to video games, to be honest. People are a lot of people, me included, right? I sit in front of the computer at work all day, and then I go home and sit in front of the computer some more. It's nice to not just sit in front of the computer, right? You want games that have the sort of face-to-face social element. And I'm aware that online gaming, video gaming can have a social element, but it's different. It's not the same. It's not the same social factor that you would have physically going somewhere and moving physical pieces around and talking to actual human beings and not little tiny postage stamp sized stick figures on the screen, right? So there's been some analysis that suggests that the death of analog gaming that was predicted because of video games has turned out to be exactly the opposite phenomenon. It's the video games have fed into analog gaming, and we've seen that all over the place with board games and RPGs and all this other stuff. In addition to that, we have a general relatively slow growth in online capabilities to facilitate these things. And then we had COVID, which resulted in an explosive, not really growth, but awareness of the capabilities that we have to do things online. Things like the various virtual tabletops for RPGs and Tabletop Simulator for miniatures and other children's games, and Vassal for the rest of us. So
Jim's busy playing one of those children's games, so he's not here to hear.
I have no actual axe to grind against our miniature playing communist sympathizers. I don't have the time for it. That is my literal reason for not doing miniatures. And if I'm not doing it, I might as well make fun of it, right? So
yes. Well,
I'm hoping that I will have thousands and thousands of angry Warhammer 40K players watching my videos. That's really what's motivating.
Well, and one of the
if you're a 40K player, you suck.
One of the reasons you don't have the time for it, of course, is the arts and crafts share of the hobby. And one of the great things about playing the minis through Tabletop Simulator is they come pre-painted and pre-assembled.
Well, this isn't actually yet another excellent entry on the list of examples of why Gary is full of shit. Because I complain about I don't have the time to deal with this arts and crafts thing aspect of the miniatures play, but then I got a 3D printer and I'm sitting here, well, I'll make a new model today of a tray to hold pencils. And this is a thing that happens. So I will clearly acknowledge
new counter storage solutions with custom sized thumb holes.
You should see my friggin' inventory of counter storage trays at this point. I've got 4 Goss games and a World at War and World in Flames to organize. So I've been just cranking them out. So spray paints is the solution. I mean, I think I could, if I were to be serious about it and try and analyze the differences between analog wargaming and miniatures wargaming, you could get some interesting conversation about that, and I would be in no sense equipped to be the person to facilitate that conversation. But I'm sure miniatures people could come up with parallel criticisms of limitations of tabletop board games. That's fine. They're not as pretty. Okay, they're not. So
Henry Cavill is in the chat wanting to know your address. Should we give it to him?
Henry can come right over. Henry Cavill shows up, I might play 40K with him. I can be talking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's be fair. Henry Cavill would not get past your wife for you to have the option to play 40K.
Oh, that's probably true. Yeah.
I mean,
that's probably true.
Yeah. Let's not.
Henry Cavill's at the door. He's here to play 40K. Get out of my way. Let me hit that man.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. So, Gary, on your convention front, you had you hit WBC. You're headed to Compass. BGF's coming up. Mm-hmm. Were you going to try for Circle DC at all?
No. I am over friggin' loaded on conventions in general, right?
Oh, well, because you got Winterfest in there too.
And well, that's in February, but don't forget, right? There is a lull. We're in the lull now, right? We're after, and we just day tripped WBC, so it's not like it was a giant project. And I didn't even, it wasn't even particular. I mean, the most expensive thing I bought was lunch. So which is not nothing, right? Because the food there is.
I was about to say either lunch is really expensive or games are really cheap.
Lunch is really expensive, and I bought. What did I buy? I did buy a relatively expensive game for Decision, but other than that, I mean, it wasn't an expensive trip or anything because we didn't have to stay there. But everything else is like you got to think about hotels. I'm not nothing in the itinerary is an airfare type of event. But as long as you can plan it and make it manageable. But man, it's just a time. It's just so much time, right? And one of the interesting and fairly unique challenges about wargaming from a convention perspective is that many of sort of our central events, our marquee events, whether you know about them or not, are a week, right? It's not like, let's say hypothetically, I wanted to go to Chaosium Con in Ann Arbor or Traveler Con in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Well, there's going to be a hotel there because neither of those is just a day trip type of drive. But they're weekend events, right? I could go on Friday morning, stay Friday, Saturday night, leave Sunday, whatever. It's not like it's this giant thing where I got to take 5 days off of work and then plan this trip where I'm staying 5 or 7 nights or whatever it is, 8 nights at Winterfest at a hotel. And man, that's a lot of money. And then you got the time off, right? Not everybody can manage that amount of time off. And I'm very lucky to have a fairly flexible arrangement with that. But you don't want to take advantage of it, or then they'll say, no, you can't have this time anymore. You've taken too much time this year. So, it's a lot. And then, coming up after WBC, for me, Wisconsin World Expo in Tempe, Arizona is happening right now. I'm very jealous, as usual, of the folks who are lucky enough to go there, but Ohio is just not viable for what it is and what it costs and what else is on the calendar, right? If that was the only convention I was going to, I could probably make it work, right?
Yeah.
But I'm giving up literally 5 other conventions to do it.
Well, and from where you are too, I mean,
well, yeah, if I'm in,
Origins, BGF, and Winterfest are all pretty darn close to you. Gen Con's not a haul if you wanted to do it. WBC
about 5 hours
a haul if you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then some smaller ones, like you mentioned, some up in Michigan or other places nearby.
The distance is a major factor.
Yeah.
Not even the distance as such, but it's the fact that you're flying into Phoenix, and Phoenix is a hub for somebody, so they've got a de facto monopoly, and it's impossible to get in and out of Phoenix for less than about $500 with airfare, as far as I can tell. So you're getting hit with that, plus a pretty expensive hotel, and it's a week, right? So we've got the lull between WBC on kind of the eastern half of the country, and other stuff happening. The next thing that will happen east is you actually and Carrie, and then Compass Expo, Veterans Day weekend in November, and then there's something else happening that weekend right around there too. I think Game Moray Con in Portland, Oregon, or in Oregon somewhere, is happening in that same general time frame out west, and then Winter Offensive, which will be MLK weekend in January.
Yeah, Ed. Well, there's Nova is up in DC this weekend. There's a NovaCon something or other. There's also Southern Front down here but that's more minis than tabletop stuff.
Yeah. Somebody asked me if I wanted to go to such and such an event, and I looked at it. I'm like, man, this is all miniatures. No.
Adepticon, ReaperCon. There's a couple of those that are.
Yeah,
that are
and
sort of-
there's at least one of those. Is I think in Ohio, one of those HMGS events is in Ohio, as I
It's like-
recall. It's would be trivial to go, but if
it's minis. Why would you?
well, right. I mean, even Historicon, my understanding is that that's almost entirely miniatures.
Yeah.
So, and again, like I said, it's a bandwidth thing. I just kind of decided at some point years ago to give up miniatures because I didn't have the time or inclination to deal with that particular part. I'm fundamentally not artistic enough to. I'm simultaneously not artistic enough to paint miniatures well, and enough of an egomaniac to be unwilling to deal with miniatures that aren't painted well.
Yeah.
So this is a poor combination for a miniatures hobbyist.
Mo, it's this weekend.
ReaperCon.
Incidentally, it is this weekend. So, cool. Well, Gary, you've got some Starfield to go play. We've got a couple
This
other
is
folks
true.
popping in. We do thank you for swinging by.
Sure,
as a
sure,
part
sure.
of our little 5th birthday. Oh, we've got to ask you: did you clear out your libations with Dan? Or are you still sipping on something down there?
What?
You still drinking something?
No,
Oh,
I got a empty Diet Mountain Dew here.
well, because it's a happy hour, man.
Well, yeah, but I've got to maintain focus here. So
Yeah, I got you. Well,
you
look,
can't be doing
Seltzer
that.
guy is upset that you're drinking Diet Mountain Dew. So
I've got some gin and tonics lined up for tomorrow. So
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Well, there
As
you
long as he doesn't mix the Mountain Dew and the whiskey, we're fine.
That would be weird. That would be weird. Not the whiskey I got. I mean,
look, he's in rural
Well,
Ohio.
that's true.
Don't
Some
put
whiskey
anything
probably
past
tastes better with Mountain Dew mixed in.
oh, that's true.
He's Mike. He's in rural Ohio. Don't put anything past him.
That's
That's
true.
true.
Now we have some of the most retrograde liquor laws in the entire country over here, at the state level. That is.
Well, here in Virginia, we have the ABC stores are just as bad.
I mean, yeah, it is just as bad. You're right. To be honest, Pennsylvania's the same way. It's not better in Pennsylvania. You got to go to Illinois. Or
What we're
Kentucky.
saying, folks, is send us whiskey.
That would be great. I'll be delighted to accept the gift of whiskey. And it's
right.
good for any occasion. I'm just pointing
Yeah.
that out, including occasions like lunch,
Breakfast.
Saturday,
or breakfast. Sometimes, sometimes you got to get started early. Sometimes the
Bedtime snacks.
demands of the day are such that you got to get an early start on.
You
on
can't
the-
drink all day if you don't start first thing in the
Right.
morning.
Live stream.
Exactly.
For live streaming.
and keep going.
So, all right, we're gonna let Gary go ahead and go tackle some Starfield here. So, Gary, thank you for popping in. We do appreciate
No
it.
problem. No problem. Have
And,
a great and happy 5th anniversary.
Which is thank yous. Try not to die shortly after character creation.
I have not yet. We're working on it.
Fair
All right,
enough.
everybody have a great night.
See
Take
you,
care.
Gary.
Thanks. All right. So Mike missed the memo on OJ's dad here missed the memo on getting the camera working, but I take it by your
We're
presence
getting the
here-
better view.
Yes.
I take it by your presence here that you are not in tonight's game with our boy Cyrano and the guys doing chain of
Nope.
command stuff.
Nope. That's Achilles and the command tent. They've been doing head to head for months now.
Yeah. You'd think one of them would have figured it out by now. So
Oh, CT's got it figured out.
wait,
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you talking
Like-
inbound or outbound there, Brian? So, Mike, I think you've probably heard some of the stuff on the stream. Just kind of over the 5 years that.
Oops.
Oh, we just lost Mike again.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry.
I didn't hit any buttons to cause him.
trying to-
All right, that one wasn't me.
No.
So, and Mike, you probably heard some on the live stream here. Where Mike C and Rocky have chimed in here over the last 5 years. Kind of bigger change that you may have seen in the in the niche part of our corner of the gaming world here. What all have you seen that's been kind of the bigger changes over the last 5 years that we've been open with the Dragoons, pandemic induced or not?
Yeah. So I'd say the two biggest ones is Tabletop Simulator, virtual gaming, right? And Discord.
Yeah.
People getting more into using Discord more and just the whole Tabletop Simulator thing.
Yeah. You know, as we noted, like Tabletop Simulator stuff, we've been doing that since, I say we, right? Ozarski's been the guy leading the charge, but that stuff kind of predated the pandemic. That stuff all started in 2019 before we needed it, and then, you know, happened to work out well that we had it when it was necessary, so that was good. So, howdy, Stacking Limit. Appreciate you swinging by there. So, I know you're one of the regulars on Saturday Night Fights, as well as whatever other nights of the week you're gaming there. Clearly, that's broadened your horizons for a variety of things you've played. What's something that you tackled in one of the TTS games that you might have never tackled face to face or in person somewhere along the way?
Just about all of them. No, seriously. I mean, Blucher, Shaco, LaSalle, Men Who Would Be Kings, Valor and Fortitude, even the John Tiller slash War Game Design Studio games that we've played. So I don't know if there's really anything that we haven't played that I would not have that I would have taken on without that. Yeah.
Well, and were you part of the 37 hours of Leipzig?
Oh yeah.
You were part of the.
Yep.
For the audience that may not be aware of it, it was late 2019, I think, when you guys did it. That
late 2020.
Was it late 2020?
Yep. Okay. COVID.
I knew it wasn't
COVID
the pandemic, but I didn't remember exactly when it was. These guys tackled Leipzig at the platoon level. I kid, but not by much. So it was the entire sort of the original Battle of Five Nations, right? It was the Napoleonic Battle of Leipzig, and it took them the better part of 4 months or so, almost 4 full months of playing 3 to 3.5 hours every Saturday night to get through the entire battle.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a couple Saturday nights we missed because, you know, we get into the holidays. I think I had COVID during that time at one point that I don't know that I was able to play one weekend. And so, yeah, it was 13 sessions. Yeah. And you know, because I'm working Saturday nights, I was watching a whole lot of it from work. But yeah, I was impressed that you guys powered through that entire thing there. So, and we're going back to it this year. Are you going back to Leipzig?
Really?
Leipzig with Blucher again. Yep.
Okay. Same cast of characters, or who's tagging in and out?
To be determined. I know not everybody will be back, but most of us will be back.
That should be quite entertaining to see. So, should be a lot of fun. Guys, we're going to have to clear somebody off screen here because we got Sam lined up to pop in as well. And I'm not sure how well we're going to handle 5 on screen at once. So I'll let you guys argue about it. Rocky, you going to?
Since my video's not working anyways, I can clear back out.
We'll back you out. So, Mike, we do appreciate you popping in, saying hi. One of the original Dragoons, been with us all 5 years. Huge supporter of Saturday Night Fights, and one of these days we get you to show up at Origins again if you can, like, not have a birthday during Origins for a change. That
yeah,
would be,
there you go.
That would be cool if you could do it. So,
all right, sounds
no,
good.
I'm not bringing in 5. I'm not that crazy trying to wrangle that many. So, okay. So Stacking Limit says he's one of the dudes that's going to jump into the big Leipzig game. So that'll be fun. So,
yep.
All right. Mike, have a beautiful evening, man. We'll catch up
You
with
too.
you later and see you in the forums. So.
Later.
All right.
Have a beautiful evening, man. We'll catch up with you later and see you in the forums.
Okay, Sam, kill your side audio, dude. All right.
Have a beautiful evening, man.
Oh boy.
All right, we're gonna bring Sam back in once he kills his side audio. So, here's Brian. Yeah, and Brant, you're right. I just recruit people to do crazy stuff. So, but yeah, Rocky's reads are some pretty good ones, and actually start finally stacking up some comments on the articles on the website. We've got the forums where folks can talk back to us, but we also do have the comments enabled on all the articles, so people have been chiming in down below. So that's somewhere to go too. And then Mike, while we get Sam's audio sorted out, talk to us a bit about My Own Worst Enemy and a lot of the solo stuff that you're dealing with there. Sort of, what are folks seeing on your channel and what's coming up soon?
Right now they're seeing the end of Triumph and Tragedy, which I've already completed the game, but turn 9 just went out and turn 10 should be out next week. And I just started a setup and kind of an unboxing of Ben Madison's latest game, Global War. So that's going to be good. I'm looking forward to playing that one. It's a little different than Kaiser Krieg, but it's I think it's going to be a good game. It's really interesting. I love Ben's stuff, and this looks like another home run.
Yeah.
And then, as you can see in the background, I've been playing with my camera, so I'm hoping to start doing some live chat stuff at some point. So that's what all the
I thought it was just the Halloween lighting.
Yeah, I know, right? So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. You know, My Own Worst Enemy was supposed to start this year, and actually it started in the pandemic. So that was another thing that the pandemic changed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had some time to work on stuff and didn't have anywhere you were able to go. So
That's true.
yeah. So Sam, if you're listening on the actual stream on the side, the problem is that you were listening to the stream on the side. You got to mute the YouTube side audio in order to pop in and join us on this one. So once you get that cleared up, pop back in. We will get you added back into the stream here. So Joe Mintum is asking what's a good Napoleonic miniature system to start with, and Stacking Limit had the right answer, which is depends on what you're wanting to play, both the size of the battles and the echelon at which you want to work. Where, you know, from operational all the way down to skirmish level, there's plenty of different options. That's probably a question best asked once Ozarski gets here, and that way we can keep the stream going past midnight on the West Coast, mind you. All right, let's Sam, did you get your audio fixed? We're not hearing an echo.
Yeah, no, I can't hear anything.
We are hearing Sam though.
We hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
there
but
he
if
goes.
you can't hear us, then you know,
Kinda-
I told everybody I was on all day to pop in and test your cameras. It would have been fine. That's cool. Look, if we were doing this with a plan, it wouldn't be us, right?
Yes. How many times have we ever done a podcast with a plan? Hey, Rocky.
It's happened a couple of times.
Hey, Rocky, can you fill in tonight? Doing what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just show up.
Yeah. It's happened a couple of times. Look, whenever we have guests from outside the Dragoons family, we do come in with a plan because we don't want to look like complete amateurs, even if we are. So that's you know, when we get like the guys from CNA show up, or when we get the guys from, you know, when Volko shows up, we've got a plan when Volko's there, you know, but or the guys from Command General Staff College, we'll have them in there as well. So let's see if all right. We're gonna try this again. Ground control to Major Tom.
Sam, you there?
I can't hear you guys at all.
Okay, well, we're hearing you just fine. So we may not have Sam actually stick with us for too much of tonight. So but you're right. Sometimes with the podcast, we're completely winging it. And there's sometimes with the podcast where we've got a much more dedicated, much more specific way in which we're approaching things. I like to think that the podcast has room to sort of, you know, go in either direction there. So that tends to help. Brian, you're right that if we don't know what we're doing, the enemy won't either. And that is a 100% fair statement there. So
War is chaos, and we practice it on a daily basis. Yes.
Hey, you know, it's if you practice it, then you get good at it, right? Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
That's what I tell my boss. He doesn't like that. So
So need a different boss.
working on it.
How hard is that? So for folks that know it doesn't immediately pop off the screen when you go looking for it. Our podcast is mentioned in dispatches with the Armchair Dragoons. There is another mentioned in dispatches in the Apple podcast directory that's a World War I history podcast that's been around for a while. Also, we didn't know it was there when we named ours, and I'm not sure theirs was carried by Apple at the time when we first went looking to see if the name was available. We didn't find any other wargaming podcasts around that name, so we ran with it. We're over, I think we hit 120 episodes exactly when we ended this past season. And we're going to be starting our next season. You can see we'll be returning in the fall. And so starting, I guess it's about 2 weeks or so that we're going to start recording the next season and ramping that up. And we'll run probably about 13 weeks where we run these things weekly for a set period of time. And then we'll take a break, usually around the holidays or the summertime, because it's tough to get anything done over the holidays. A friend of mine used to call that gap between November and between Thanksgiving and Christmas the American Ramadan. And I'm not sure he's wrong. But we sort of take a break between Thanksgiving and the ACDC pretty much just because we're busy with a lot of other things. And then we'll take a break over the summer because everybody's traveling anyway. We got game conventions we're dealing with. We got stuff we're working on. So that tends to wipe us out over the summer for trying to get podcast stuff done. But when we're in season in the fall and the spring, we run weekly podcasts. So it gives everybody something to look forward to every Friday for their weekend listening. And we got
everyone except Compass Games.
I think they've just quit listening to us, whether we talk about them or not. I think they're done listening to us. So.
Too bad.
We give them 2.5 hours worth of catalog conversation every fall. They still get mad at us. So, we'll see what happens. Okay, Sam, this is the last time we're trying this with your audio, man. If it doesn't work, you're done. Let's see what happens.
Sam,
you there?
Yeah.
Get in here.
See, this is what happens when you try to broadcast from inside a jet engine.
Say hello.
All right. Yeah, Sam, you just sound like you've got like you're out on an airport runway or something. Yeah. All right. We'll have to maybe pick up Sam another time and see. In terms of I want to go back to a comment that Meandering Mike had made earlier. I'm gonna pull this back up on screen, assuming I can scroll back up far enough there. But Meandering Mike was talking about some of the other things that he's got for more eclectic tastes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and look, you're amongst a friendly tribe here with that, Mike.
Yes.
I promise. One of the things that we've been particular about in the characterization of the Armchair Dragoons, you'll notice we focus a lot on wargaming, but we bill ourselves as the Regiment of Strategy Gaming. And we talk about more than just wargame stuff. Because, look, Rocky covered Flashpoint South China Sea, so we clearly talk about not wargames as well. I'm sure Harold's watching somewhere and going to yell.
Yes, throw me under the bus, please.
Oh, why not? But we do cover some role-playing stuff. We do cover some other adventure gaming stuff. Rocky is careful in his characterization of certain things as adventure war games. Mike and I have both joked about the voluminous amount of PDF RPG content that we have choking up our drive-through RPG libraries that if we printed them all would completely crush the second floors of our houses.
And there would be no Amazon rainforest.
No, there would not.
I think I'm up to like 1,000 products.
That's, multiple shelves of RPG stuff back there in the background, as well as on that side of my office, I've got another couple of huge, collections of RPG stuff as well. Just because it's something, look, for a lot of us of a certain age, there was no distinction between role-playing stuff and war game stuff. It was just all adventure game stuff. It was all, not Monopoly. And so, everybody kind of moved seamlessly between them. And there were times where you actually had fantasy war game stuff showing up in the modules. The old X10 module for the Beckme set was a war game. There was one of the Dragonlance ones, 13, 14, somewhere around there was the Dragonlance war game. It was defending the big castle, Solomnian Knight Castle from the Attack of the Dragons. It was a war game.
Don't even talk about GDW. I mean, Frank Chadwick, war game designer. Frank Chadwick, RPG designer. I mean, same thing.
Gary Gygax designed a war game.
Yes, it was called Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, but he also did an Alexander the Great game. So, didn't Mark Miller get a couple of war games under his belt along the way?
Oh yeah.
So it's not like Mike. It's not like you're meandering, Mike. It's not like you're not amongst a friendly tribe here in terms of RPG as well as wargaming coverage. And actually, if you go back digging through some internet archives, I have published RPG reviews from back in the RPG.net era before they went sort of batshit crazy over the last 5 years. Some of my earliest
reviews. How you really think?
Huh?
Tell us what you really think.
Yeah. Several of the RPG sites out there have gone completely batshit crazy, all in different directions. And, look, that's who you want to be. That's fine. I don't have to hang out with you. That's great. But some of my earliest review stuff that I wrote was RPG stuff back in the 90s for RPG.net. So, we do all cover a whole bunch of stuff. Rocky's working on stuff for the One Ring RPG right now, thanks to hooking him up with the Free League guys. So, and you've got Mork Borg coming once it's done being embargoed, right?
Yeah, Pirate Borg. Pirate Borg. Pirate Borg is a comment. Yeah, it's let's get the embargo done with, because that's going to be fun.
Yeah. All right,
Mo.
Let's get him in here. There's Mo.
Mid vape.
There's Mo.
How's it going?
He's been heckling us from the comment section, but time for him
nice
to pop
can
in.
heckle us in person.
Of course. Always have to bust your chops.
Yeah, why not? Well, that and we invited you to swing by. So
this is true.
You've heard us talking with some of the other folks. Last 5 years, big changes you've seen in the hobby. What comes to mind?
Well, obviously, the pandemic was a big, story for everybody. It changed a lot of things, obviously with the virtual conventions. And then on top of that, it also really did bring to the forefront the need for more solitaire games. And it became a thing now where publishers, designers are now really looking at the solitaire aspects of things instead of just making it a 2-player game, actually trying to add in more solitaire stuff, which is really good to see that for those who want that. I'm fine either way. I have split personality when it comes to war games, like most war gamers do. And, and I often surprise myself, which is the interesting thing. But those are the first two right there. And then, of course, I think it did boost up regular conventions too, because people being stuck at home, when they finally got a chance to go out again, they wanted to get out there and be part of conventions. So I think we've seen a big boost in conventions too.
Yeah. And honestly, I really hope that big boost in conventions continues, because I think even with the gaming boom that we've seen, and Mike, you and I talked about this, I think at Mace, actually, even with the big boom in gaming that we've seen, gamers still tend to be a minority in a lot of people's social circles. Sports fans, you can find sports fans anywhere. It's harder to find non-sports fans than it is to find sports fans. Music fans, you can find all kinds of music fans of all kinds of music all over the place. Mm-hmm. But gamers of any stripe are still not necessarily the most common sort of thing you'll find out there. And so having the opportunity just for the social exchange with folks that are lifelong and hardcore game types is kind of one of the great features of conventions. So
I think there's a lot more gamers out there than we give credit for.
Maybe, but that nobody lets their freak flag fly, right?
Well, that's I'll say that. I mean, my boy's in college, and he takes a stack of games down with him. Yeah, most of them are more party games, the social games, and that sort of stuff. Drinking games, though. He's technically underage, but we won't mention that. But I think that it's out there. I mean, they play some serious strategy games. So,
yeah. it would be nice to have some more. So, or at least people to sort of more proudly proclaim that. You're right, Mike. There absolutely are some one-note gamers, and I think that tends to be the dudes that have sort of heavy financial investment in specific, series. The two you mentioned in your comment right here, both ASL and Warhammer. First of all, just keeping up with either of those product lines sort of prevents you from buying anything else.
Lifestyle games.
Yeah. That's definitely the case. And for anybody who's an ASL fan, you got to come see the wall of ASL stuff that they've got down at Gamers Army. If you can make it to the fall assembly sometime, I've posted some pictures of it over the years. Scott's whole thing has always been, if it's in print for ASL, he wants to be able to carry it. So he has the stuff from Lone Canuck Publishing. He has the stuff from Le Franc Terreur. There's a club down in Tampa. There's an ASL club down in Tampa that does like a twice a year convention, and they publish the little scenario packs that they give to the people at the conventions. Scott gets copies of those to be able to sell at his store. That's like the only place you can find them to buy retail. But he's made a big deal out of that over the years.
Nice.
So, Mo, I know you've been a part of our digital conventions going back to the very first one.
Yep.
And been a big and important part of those things. You've also done a couple of other digital conventions. How have you seen those evolve over the course of the 5 years that they've been going on? Because I think, or 4 years or whatever it is, because I think early on we started with, okay, how do we take a real world convention and just replicate that in the digital space, and didn't necessarily take advantage of all the things digital conventions offered us. And Mike, Rocky, you guys jump in here too if there's something that you think of, while Mo's answering. But Mo, what do you think has sort of popped up along the way there?
Well, I think the biggest thing was, number one, making it happen at first. I think a lot of people were like, this can't happen. And it's like, well, the technology's there and everybody, we got it going, and it started rolling, and it evolved pretty fast, and which was a great thing to see. And at first people were like, what am I going to do at a virtual convention? And then everybody started getting stir crazy enough to say, okay, I'll try it out. And they were like, wow, this is actually really cool. This works. And over time it's evolved to where there's a better format now. It's not just, hey, we're going to get together and play some games on Vassal or Tabletop Simulator, where you've got designers giving demos of games as if they were there on the table at a real convention. You got people giving talks. A lot of stuff. And now, because you don't have to rely on any sort of technology at the facility or trekking it halfway across the country, you can sit down, have your own PowerPoint presentations or whatever, show it over Discord, very easy, and give a really good presentation. So it's really evolved into organically into a fantastic format, I think.
Yeah. And as Gary said earlier, you can save a lot of money going to a digital convention.
Oh yeah. Now it sucks for the vendors, because they can't get that same participation that they do, because even if they give a good deal on something, which they have numerous times, nothing will ever beat going into a convention, going through the vendor area, picking up, touching, turning it around, and then just saying, oh, I gotta have it. Boom. And somebody come over and say, oh, yeah, I got that. It's really good. The impulse buys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot at Enterprise Games at Origins.
I think that's probably been the hard, as somebody who's now done 6 different digital conventions plus a couple of conferences. Those are just the ones I organized, not necessarily the ones I attended. The vendor participation, I think, is the hardest nut to crack. I'm not sure anybody's figured out a good way to really replicate that vendor hall in any sort of digital format. I think the first person who figures that out is going to be heralded as a groundbreaking genius.
Well, I think one way to do that would be to know when your trafficked areas are going to be the highest, as far as on your Discord or whatever, and generate even more traffic by saying, hey, for at varying times of the day, we're going to have hot sales. So at 1 p.m., You've got Enterprise or whoever saying 30% off this game right now, or 20% off, whatever, for the next 10 minutes. And then everybody's there is going to jump in and things like that. You're going to have to do, I hate to say it, but you're going to have to do something gimmicky to get people to get involved.
But I think you still, you know, as Mike mentioned, you're not walking up to the Enterprise booth and going, oh, that looks kind of cool, and shake it up and take a look at it. And oh, wow, I'm definitely taking this with me. You know, that doesn't really happen in a digital format, unfortunately.
No, and then the best part about it too is that you're at a convention, you can buy that game, whether it's off the flea market or from a vendor. You can walk over to the table with it, open it up, and start playing with it, which is the number one thing everybody wants to do. Everybody, I gotta open it up. I gotta, touch everything and read through the rule book, and even and fantasize about the day I'm going to play it, which may not be for 2 to 4 years. Or longer, I mean,
decades.
Yeah, decades, exactly. So that's one of the other aspects.
It's interesting. One of the things that we do see at Origins, and Mike's been the cause of a couple of these actually, is we actually see a little bit of the reverse traffic. People will come to our area, play something, go, this is really cool, I need to go get this, walk over to Enterprise, Decision, Dietz Foundation, whoever, Lock and Load when they were there with us, and go buy a copy of it right then, because they had a good time playing it. Don sold out of Salerno 43 with Todd, having that as one of our games at Origins. I think, Mike, didn't you sell a couple copies of Plains Indian Wars this year?
Yeah, usually we end up selling whatever we're running. We'll end up selling copies of whatever we're running, so it helps them a lot. Yeah.
And I know, Fort Circle had cut a deal with Enterprise to have them carrying a couple of their things, Shores of Tripoli and Votes for Women, because Halls of Montezuma is not published yet. And then Tim had a couple of his Catastrophe things out there, and pretty much all those things sold out after folks playing the games with us. So
I actually bought the last copy of Votes for Women.
that was you.
That was me.
Yeah. So, Mike brings up a good point here in terms of not necessarily playing the games virtually, but the talks and the seminars and such. I think one of the great things about the virtual convention is it's very easy to get some good talks to those conventions, because once you take travel out of the equation, a lot more people are willing to get involved. And one of the great examples of that was Mo's World War III Cold War Gone Hot panel that he had at our last ACDC. It was either the last one or the one before that, where he managed to get Fabrizio from Italy on with Mark Herman, with Adam Starkweather. Like, we had the all-star panel of World War III Cold War Goes Hot game designers there. And that was a really cool panel. And there's not a chance in hell you'd have got all those guys into one place at one time, unless you were footing the bill.
Logistically, it would have been very difficult for sure, especially for Fabrizio and Tony. You're coming from the UK, you're coming from Italy or France, actually where he lives. But that's one of the big keys right there is when you have a digital convention or digital gathering of any sort, you can bring people in from all over the world very easy.
Yeah. And because you're not pressed for space, it's not like you've got to hustle people in and out of conference rooms. It's very easy to stack up a whole bunch of those things back to back pretty quickly and have plenty of programming running kind of nonstop. We don't want to counter program anybody, right? We don't want two talk shows running at the same time, because we don't want to cannibalize the audience. But it's very easy to have one person stop right at the top of the hour and another one start right away, because all you got to do is click over to a different stream and off you go.
Sure. Yeah. And the other thing too is when it comes to, because you don't have to travel or anything, another selling point for a lot of people is it's easier to sell to their spouse. Hey, listen, I'm going to be at this digital convention this weekend. From 12 to 5, there's a few things I want to check out. After that, I can do whatever. We can do whatever we want with the family, and before that and after it, versus going away for the entire weekend, which is a harder sell. So, not to mention costs more money. So, that's the other advantage to it too.
Jeff Tidball, who now runs Left Justified Studios, but was a Gamma board member for a while, did a whole lot of different things at Atlas Games for a long time, had some interesting thoughts about sort of digital versus in-person conventions. And he said, despite all of the low barriers to entry for digital conventions, the in-person ones still have one very good feature about them, and that is this is guaranteed protected time that I will be left alone for gaming, because I've made the investment in the travel, in the hotel, in all of these other things that when I am there, the rest of the world does not exist. And with a virtual convention, that's a lot harder to do because you're still in range of walking the dog and taking out the trash and eating dinner with the family and everything else. That you still have all of those things that need to happen, that will happen when you're doing the convention at home, that won't if you had to get on a plane to go somewhere.
True. So you're saying like at the actual convention, like when Alexander ran off at the hospital and ran back to games, you know, he just the real world doesn't anymore. Sorry, no, I was watching those talk about their WBC experience and when Brady got the health scare, and that came to mind.
Yeah. You were coming through a little broken there, but I think we all got the gist of where you were going. So, one of the challenges, some of those very early Origins, the first couple that I did, I was living in Columbus. So I didn't necessarily get the advantage of that protected time of being away because I still had to get home for dinner and whereas now when Origins is an 8-hour road trip, yes, I'm staying with my folks, but my folks know that I'm going to be at the convention until 10 o'clock at night. And they understand that that's why I'm there. That's why I'm in town for, and, you know, I'll see you for bedtime and I'll get up the next morning before you're even up, eat breakfast and be back out of there. They sort of understand because of the travel involved that's time I'm taking away. So, you know, definitely helps. You see, Mo, you could be doing ReaperCon if you were paying attention to the calendar.
Yeah, well, you know, it always happens. I forget that it's Labor Day, and I'm like, oh, it's Labor. I even forgot it was Labor Day weekend this weekend. We were talking about it at work today. We're like, yeah, see you on Monday, and because somebody had took tomorrow off, and they're like, see you on Tuesday. Oh, you took Monday off too? Yeah, we all did. Oh, that's right. Hey, that's a nice bonus. I didn't even think about it. It's just been, you know, kind of crazy. Sometimes you forget, and that's usually what happens by the end of the summer. You get a little burnt out.
You see, Mike's busy thinking, wait, you guys go to work?
Yeah. No, it's like when my wife says, oh, I'm off Monday. And I say, yeah, I am too. And she looks at me and I say, well, I'm also off on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday.
Sure, that goes over well.
It doesn't go very well.
Yeah, a couple more years and I'll be able to join that club. But until that time, I'm going to have to try to keep remembering what holidays are what.
Yeah. So Mo, we've been asking the other people as they've been popping in, what are you drinking tonight? It's a happy hour. What's the libation?
Legacy Canadian iced tea. Same thing we had at Compass Expo last year.
Aha. All right. Well,
it's a good
we
bottle.
don't have Dan here to make fun of the Canadian iced tea. So, all right. Mo, thank you for popping in. Appreciate you swinging by. Hang out in the comments and keep heckling us as always. You still got an extra hour for bedtime on the rest of us. So
yeah, that's true. I got a little bit extra time.
But definitely thank you for swinging by. So
yeah, thanks for having me. Congrats on 5 years.
Thank you. All right, let's okay, we're gonna check Sam and see if the audio is
still there. Hey, you dropped
Sam
it.
is still here. Sam, this is your last strike, man. If the audio is not working, too bad.
Come on, you sound good now. We could use the static is gone and there's no noise. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes.
There he is.
Finally, we have clean audio.
Yeah.
That didn't take
Sam
long.
is one of the not just one of the original Dragoons. Sam's one of the crew that's been with us for, you know, the 20 years going all the way back to wargamer.com days. And so I think that makes you like 12 when you started hanging out with us, right?
Sure. No, I think it was 25 or thereabouts. I think I started lurking in the Wargamer forums back at the time.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But he's survived multiple migrations with us. He's survived a couple of road trips. We scared the crap out of Sam by making his first convention ever, Origins. And it was one of the bigger ones back in the mid-teens when there were still, you know, close to 20,000 people there. And poor Sam. Sam calls us. We gave him directions to get over to cross the street to North Market, and Sam calls us from like 17 blocks in the wrong direction because he got across the street and turned instead of going past the buildings. And he calls us from like the state capitol. Hey, where is this North Market place?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, what intersection are you at? And like he's literally across the street from the state capitol. Like, all right, turn around and walk back. So, and then got stuck on the wrong side of the street when the Pride Parade rolled through town as well. So that was, Sam had an interesting first convention experience. That was a lot of fun.
So he needs to come back though. He needs to.
Yeah. Looking forward to coming back though for sure.
Well, we got to find somebody to give you a ride down from Lower Canada to
Lower Canada.
Come on down and hang with us. So Sam, you've heard us talking with other folks over the last 5 years. Kind of what's something that sticks out to you that's changed in the gaming niche, in the gaming hobby there in our little corner of the world. So,
what was Gary or that said, but the rise of Discord, that's been a big thing.
Yeah,
last few years, that's really changed things, and the rise of, the tabletop simulator, that's really made a change for the way we play games online, especially as you said with COVID. That's been huge. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think, those those are the two things that had come off the top of my head when I was thinking about it, honestly.
Yeah.
They're just enormous, the way they've changed and expanded the options for gamers.
I think another thing for the site for ACD, because I've been talking about things that have changed for Armchair Dragoons. One of the things that's changed for us, I think, is Sam has done a lot of digital 4X education for some of us, and he's really kept us on top of what is the latest and greatest in the 4X world in computer gaming. So that's pretty cool.
Well, thanks. I wasn't gonna say anything about that.
Well, don't worry. We were going to say it for you, so it's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you guys know that's always my single biggest passion is Lane. So,
yeah.
So, and by the way, Mike, nice Romulan green in the background.
You like that? I did go all Romulan tonight.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So those of you that frequent our forums know that if you want to know something about 4X stuff, Sam's usually the guy breaking the news in there, where he's posted links or vids or whatever from other places that are talking about the different 4X games that are out there. Space obviously is his key thing, but he keeps an eye on some of the historical 4X stuff as well, and some of the
fantasy stuff too. So yeah, I've been keeping to post. I've got like a massive info dump. They keep me to a bunch of different games. I've got a post in the forums here. Actually, there's a ton of stuff going on. So,
well, now you've got something to do for the rest of the night, since you've got some time on your hands. So
yeah.
Not being at work there. Again, as the Regiment of Strategy Gaming, the 4X stuff is definitely in our wheelhouse. Actually, I don't think any of the three of y'all are in any of them, but we've got, I think, 7 different multiplayer Civ 6 games going right now with various Dragoons in them, of which I'm in 5. and I think there's a couple going without me at the moment also, which is kind of entertaining. We all sort of check these turns in online on a pretty regular basis, usually get at least 1, sometimes 2 turns a day, depending on how quickly they move and whether or not Vance is on vacation, because when he's out, everything sort of stops. But we get a bunch of games in over the course of the year with all of these Civ 6 multiplayer games, because it's a very easy online check-in system to run with. So not hard to do. So Aaron, we'll talk SD Hist East here in a second when we bring Chris Weave in for a second. Sam, thank you for swinging by, saying hi, finally getting your audio working. appreciate you not sounding like you're in a jet engine. That was good.
Yeah.
When you go back and watch the stream after the fact, you'll understand why we're saying that about the audio you couldn't hear. But that was sort of where you sounded for a bit there.
No, my apologies for blowing out your eardrums.
Nah, we're fine. The crawl before the show even told everybody to turn it up so people in the next room could hear. So that was totally good. But Sam, thank you for swinging by. Appreciate you popping in and helping join the happy. Oh, hey, we didn't ask Sam. What are you drinking?
Kugels in my ACD glass, no less.
Okay. Hey,
There
there we
you
go. Excellent. Well, go enjoy the drink, and appreciate you popping in to join the fun.
And pop in a live convention, please.
So
Yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah.
like
Show up
I
in
said,
person one of these days.
yeah, like I said, I almost made Origins this year. Had to pull out at the last moment, unfortunately. So working on next year now. So
We
We
will bring
weren't expecting you to show up at the fall assembly, but Origins is doable because you've done it before.
we'll bring Starfleet battles, Federation Empire, Federation Space, Federation Commander, Klingon Commander, all those things if you show up.
So you know I'm looking forward to playing those with you, Mike. Absolutely.
All right. Sam, thanks for popping in here. Appreciate it.
See ya.
And look, if we're going to be talking Star Trek-y kind of stuff, the guy that does Starfleet Tactical every Saturday night has got to make an appearance here at some point. So Chris, thank you for joining us. Look, we have multiple Chris W's waiting to pop in here, and it wasn't that the scheduler necessarily intentionally screwed it up. Chris Whedon and Sam were both told, hey, pop in when you get a chance. We had a more dedicated schedule for some people that we knew had particular things to go do, like Gary was coming off of another show. But we Sam and the other Chris, we said just pop in when you can. So
it's funnier just to blame you for it, though.
Yeah, and
it's also
I've
true.
been married long enough, I'm used to it. So, Chris Weave has not done a ton in terms of being involved in sort of forum stuff or article writing stuff with the Dragoons, but where Chris has been heavily involved is in a bunch of the event stuff, both being a part of some of our podcasts, but he is the lead sled dog for the Connections Online crew, where we are a co-sponsor of that professional conference. And Rocky's popped in on a couple of those. Mike, I think you were eavesdropping on some of the Connections Online stuff at some point as well. But Chris is kind of the guy that's sort of, made that engine go there.
Well,
talk to us
about. I was just going to say, Connections Online does not happen without support from the Dragoons, because I had an idea and I said, I'm going to go do this. And then it's like, oh shit, I have to figure out how to do this. And then Brant almost immediately said, hey, can I and the Dragoons help doing that? And I said, yeah, I think we can work you in. And so Brant's been the guy who's made it happening. I mean, fully half the staff is Dragoons people. So thank you, Brant, as always.
2 of 4. I mean, half the staff makes it sound like the Cecil B. DeMille cast. I mean, it's,
Well, that's the wonderful thing
virtual.
about fractions. It's not dependent upon the actual absolute number.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, we've done 3 Connections Onlines plus a Connections Online showcase. We're planning for the 4th one now, which is April of this coming year. Outside of that, though, we've got kind of the digital conference stuff going on, but we've been asking other folks kind of in the wargaming world, and you'll probably approach it a little more from the professional aspect. What's a big change or two that you've seen in wargaming over the last half decade? Basically, the time that the Dragoons have been around. So
okay, so I mean, I heard the previous answer to that. Mine's going to be very similar to that, because I mean, COVID is just sort of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and there was this interesting juxtaposition between technology that had kind of already gotten to the point to make distributed wargaming a very feasible thing, plus this really, really big event that forced everybody to go do that stuff. So, Tabletop Simulator existed, all the things like Vassal and those other things had been around for a long, long time, starting off first as a way of exchanging email files and then turning into sort of more of a server-based thing. There's a whole bunch of those different tools. There's an entire graveyard of dead tools along those lines, like electronic cardboard and things like that from the old days. But this was really sort of like this harmonic convergence of bringing all the different planets ended up in alignment, and it forced people to start doing some things. And there were some really sort of creative things that happened out there. I remember Rex Brynan in Canada playing miniatures games with Tom Moat in England, where he was suspending a camera over his miniature setup and like had another camera that was doing like figure eye views and then an overhead camera, and they're playing miniatures from 6 time zones apart. And that they weren't using any dedicated wargaming tools to that. That was just like, hey, the internet, cool, internet and web, right? And they were able to make that work. So that I think is the one big thing. The second,
our guy Spirito is just off stage thinking, "Oh, how quaint with a suspended camera."
From a professional standpoint, the thing is that even more so, because on the professional side of things, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds because I'm not speaking for my employer. I don't speak for my employer. My employer doesn't speak for me. That's the relationship we have. Now
but you've met the contractual obligation to include that statement, so we're good.
Yep. I always tell people my hobbies are naval history, thinking about science fiction, wargaming, and not speaking for my employer. Those are my 3 hobbies. But on the professional side of things, we had to start thinking about this stuff too. And that was a bigger lift because if you asked me how I was going to run a game for fun, I got a lot of tools, right? I've got the webcam suspended. I've got Vassal. I've got this. I've got that. For Discord, you can play Dominion if you've ever played that card game. You can play that game over a phone. Yeah. You don't actually need to share any visualization. You can play it over a phone because of the unique nature of those card decks. You just need to make sure that you have. Every now and then you have to do a radio call to make sure that you're all on the same map grid square in terms of what the state of the board is, and you're ready to go. And you can play it over a phone. I mean, I've played it multiple times over Zoom where we're not looking at the cards, we're just looking at each other, right? It's because we're doing a social activity. None of those tools.
Games like Shores of Tripoli that have separate card decks for each player, you can also do the same thing as long as each person has their own copy of the game.
If you're drawing from a common card deck, it gets a lot harder. You have to come up with some way of one person is a designated drawer, and you have to be able to show the card to the person it's going to, not everybody else. In fact, I even saw a Kickstarter thing that came out right before COVID, specifically designed to allow you to play a game remotely like that. Like a physical board game, and it had a box in which you put a cell phone, and then you would put a card on top of it and push a button, and it would take a picture of the cell phone and send it to the right person. I don't know if that Kickstarter ever came out, but it sounded like a good idea. I failed my morale roll when I read the word subscription in the description of the business model. And at that point I said, yeah, I'm out. But up until that point, I was really enthused. On the professional side, we don't have those tools. We don't have access to those tools because getting authorization to run those in a network, on any of the governmental networks, will take two-thirds of the lifespan of the universe before we ever get permission to actually put that stuff on.
And that is fast-tracked.
Yeah, and that's if it's fast-tracked. It just takes too long. And so we've had to try to do stuff remotely using the tools that we've got. Like at one point during COVID, we were trying to do something remotely, and it was we've got VTC capability. We've got we were using Command PE to do it. You would think, hey, I just feed that signal out and it goes out to the other side, right? the bandwidth was so crappy that nobody could read anything on it, right? You could see the little blobs moving around, but you couldn't read any of the words next to it, and those words were important. And so that was the other thing, is forcing the government guys, putting a gun to our head and saying, no, really, if you want to do gaming, you have to be able to do it remotely.
Yeah.
So on the hobby side was I think a success story across the board. Government side, we know where the limitations are a lot better now.
But that's been true for a long time. So, but
yeah, the difference is that it's created a demand signal that didn't exist before.
Yeah. Since you're here, I do want to make sure we get the plug in on Starfleet Tactical. Why should people be watching you on Saturday nights when they're done watching Saturday Night Fights with the live stream guys?
So Starfleet Tactical is a show that started during COVID, sort of by accident. I got invited in somebody else's show, and 3 weeks later I was hosting my own. And at no point did Alec ever ask me if I wanted to host a show. He just sort of like created a name and a logo and gave me a time slot and said, "Here you go." And it's like, I'll do that. He didn't ask me, but he also didn't have to twist my arm. And so frequently I'm on the show solo just because the rest of the world is busy, but frequently I have guests. Like on this coming weekend, I'm going to be on Saturday, I'm going to be up at Chris Carlson's place. And we're going to be talking about fire control, mostly in the Omniverse. We'll probably talk about Star Trek a little bit. For a show called Starfleet Tactical, we do not spend all of our time talking about Star Trek. We spend some of our time.
You did all Battlestar Galactica last week.
Yeah, we did Battlestar Galactica last week. And specifically, I'm a naval analyst by training, in addition to being a professional wargamer. What I spent last week doing is sort of looking at what I saw on screen. Admittedly, I haven't watched the show in 10 plus years. I need to go back and do it. But just sort of sketching out in my mind, what I think, based upon the capabilities I saw from the very, very small selection of colonial naval units that we saw, what their combat doctrine might have looked like based upon the capabilities they had and how they seem to use their ships. That is fraught with peril, starting with the fact that I don't think that any of the writers actually sat down and wrote it all out that way. And, me not seeing the show in 10, 12 years doesn't make it any better. But I just sort of sat down and tried to do that stuff. So a lot of it is taking historical naval stuff, combining and looking at science fiction through the lens of historical naval topics as seen by a naval analyst.
Yeah. So folks that are deep into the doctrine or hardware or some high nerdery analysis of some beloved sci-fi franchises, Chris's show on it's late Saturdays, but it is recorded. You can go back and watch it after the fact. It's definitely something that you guys might want to check into there and take a look.
Yeah, and this Saturday is going to be show number 118. So we've been doing it for a while. Yeah. And all except about 4 of them are available online, or at least they keep going on and off. I need to go talk to the guy who's in charge of the YouTube channel and find out what's going on with that. I think at some point we're going to create a separate YouTube channel just to archive it so that they can do whatever they need to do to feed the algorithm beast, whereas we can still have another show that nobody's trying to do anything special with and just put it off to one side. And I saw that Aaron was posting. I was also at SD Hist, and one of my regrets from SD Hist is that I wanted to sit down and actually talk to Aaron for a while. Aaron had come and done a presentation on Connections Online a couple of not this last year, but I think the year before, if I remember correctly, and wanted to sit down and chat with him, and I was never able to make it happen.
So there's a couple of SD Hist East folks in the chat in the audience right now. So Chris, before we let you get out of here, we've been asking everybody else, what are you drinking tonight? I don't think you're imbibing anything at the moment, are you?
I am having, believe it or not, Muscle Milk Pro. In a perfect world, I would have like an amaretto sour or something, but that perfect world is not a world where my cardiologist is saying, really, you should not be drinking. So
Fair
it's nothing
enough.
particularly serious. It's just annoying.
Well, we appreciate you popping in to join us for the happy hour for a little bit and representing sort of our professional crossover there. So thank you for being here. Thank you for saying hi. Safe travels home, because I know you're on the road right now. And folks, if you're interested in again some deeper analysis of the sci-fi worlds out there, it's not just one world, it's multiple. Chris's show on Saturday nights or the archive on YouTube is definitely something worth checking out and seeing if it scratches that itch for you. So
and also come and visit us for Connections Online. I mean, it's aimed at the professional side of the house, but anybody who's interested in how war games work, and all of the Connections Online, we've, as Brant said, we've done 3 regular ones and 1 showcase. That's a total of 10 days of programming. So, about 6 hours. Actually, I guess the showcase was 10 hours long.
Yeah,
so
it was one 10-hour day.
So what that works out to about 60 hours, 70 hours. I'm doing math in public, something like that of programming out there. So it's all available on YouTube.
Yep. Cool. Well, Chris, thank you. We're going to let you go, because if we've got 2 Chris W's on the show at the same time, we're all going to get just way too damn confused. So
understood.
So
thank you very much for having me.
Take care, guys. So
bye.
Metal Dog, how we doing, dude? We're going to grab you and Cyrano at the same time here.
2 of my favorite people at the same time, me and Cyrano.
So grab a couple of folks.
I'm passing out. Oh, wait, there's Jim. All right. Okay.
Jim's here
He
too.
was blurry.
Our buddy Metal Dog, as well as our buddy Jim Cyrano Ozarski, are 2 of the guys that have been around with the Dragoons since the beginning, going all the way back to the Wargamer days, and have been around, in the case of Cyrano, Origin since before we were doing the Wargame HQ, because he used to show up at the War College when we were doing some of the staff wargaming stuff, what we now call the CPXs up there, and there's video proof of that, of him being the Israeli commander during a Persian incursion game. We've still got that video floating around out there also. So Chris Whedon, gonna start with you, although for you, I think it's a little more of the social aspect of stuff, but over the 5 years that we've been around with the Dragoons, what's something that you've seen that's been a bit of a change in the hobby world? Kind of our gaming world.
I was eavesdropping a little bit earlier, and the last Chris W had mentioned something about COVID being transformative, and it was certainly a shock to me to see when you guys held an online convention. I thought that was the neatest thing in the whole wide world. I mean, why not use the internet for good? Going out, pushing cardboard around. So as far as that's concerned, I think there's a lot of people that are more interested in being together in that manner. I mean, being in our own houses for a year and a half, whatever it is, certainly changed a lot of day-to-day things and how people view things and their time and how they use it and whatnot, and being able to have a little bit more available, and everybody basically sitting in front of their computers anyway for work or pleasure or whatever it is. You're already there, and comfortable. All right, well, call somebody up and play a game. So I think that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, and the ringleader of doing those things for us is here as well. Our buddy Cyrano, who's showing up as late as he is because you guys had a live game going, and we've got both Achilles and the command tent now in the chat as well. Jim, how'd the game go tonight?
It was Achilles' most desperate hope that he could return the favor that's been given to him in our Kampfgruppe von Luck campaign multiple times and actually drive CT from the field. He did not.
Yeah, I was about to say
he dropped smoke till hell wouldn't have it, and kept waiting and waiting and waiting for an opportunity to attack. But believe it or not, Hello, CT. The delightful thing of it was he brought along his Lorraine 75L Schlepper, and it sat in the back firing 13 dice of high explosive ammunition every turn, and Achilles decided he had to withdraw. So now it's a 5-board game. CT has 8 turns to win. He must drive Achilles from all 5 boards. It is now the 6th turn of the 8, so he has 3 turns to win the last board, which will be our next step.
Sounds like Achilles needs more tanks.
It had Achilles, who, as if you don't know, was a tanker in real life, had a tank. The game would have been different. He would have gladly accepted one of those French tanks. Thank you, son.
Yeah. Jim, not sure if you're aware of it. Your camera keeps trying to focus on like glasses, the rest of you, glasses, the rest of you, but you're sort of fading in and out of focus.
So you're saying if I do this, it'll be? I know I'm doing it.
No, I don't know if that didn't fix it because your focus is still coming and going a little. Oh.
I have no earthly idea. Wait, huh? Oh no, there it goes.
I don't know.
Brant, did you just put a ticker up at the bottom of the screen?
It's been going off and on for a while. Yeah.
Oh, look at
that. What do you think? You're Ardwolf? What's going on here?
So.
Yeah, try not to be weird, man.
Yeah.
That's a big ass.
Dude, it's me. There's no trying. So let's ask the questions before you guys are on your way out the door. Chris, what are you drinking tonight?
Water. Nestle Pure Life.
All right. Jim, you got to be able to beat water over there, right?
Jack, bourbon and diet. It's not Jack tonight.
Okay. So I've already finished the cider, so now I'm working on a little bit of water. I got to go get some vaccinations tomorrow, so I got to put some water in me. I don't end up as a complete. I've now hit that age limit where the shingles vaccine becomes an actual point of conversation. So yay. But like everybody I know that's gotten that first dose has been wiped out for 24 hours afterwards. So I'm really looking forward to losing part of my holiday weekend on that one. Hey, Jim, you're probably going to echo some similar comments to what other people have said, but over the 5 years that we've had the doors open on the Dragoons, obviously, COVID sort of forced some of the changes on us, but some of the bigger changes that you've seen in the hobby, in our wargaming hobby, in our niche space there, anything in particular stand out? I'm curious because for a lot of folks, it's been the whole issue of, well, playing games online, except that you were doing that before COVID anyway. So it's not like that sort of forced that to happen for you, although that is still within that 5-year range of, kind of a big change. What do you think?
My problem is I never try to make my own experiences emblematic of anything broader because I realize I can be a little bit of an outlier on a lot of things. That's the Chet, good to see you, man. To me, I got to be careful about this, right? And I don't want to pretend like my experience is normative. The last 5 years have been the end of what's the chronologist word? Meat space gaming. It's just ended for me. I don't do it anymore. I don't play physical board games. I don't play physical minis. I just don't. I don't need to. I don't particularly want to be honest.
What's interesting is you're still buying them.
Well, I buy them, and I'll tell you why specifically I buy them. I buy them because it's an honor system, right? If you come up with a great board game, I'm not going to steal it just because it's available on Tabletop Simulator. I'm going to buy a copy because I owe you that much money. Yes, TTS has excellent units for Chain of Command for the French, 2 separate units, including those by Baryonyx and Lazy Boy. So you're all set. Yes, that is the case. So, that's why I buy the game. Most of them are still in the shrink wrap. I then buy them so I can hold them up and shake them and say, see, I got them. Or the rules, I'll flip the pages and say, look, I got them. And then I don't ever use them again. I've posted pictures of it. I've got this tub of Chain of Command Napoleonics where I've got everything. And it all fits. It's a tackle box. and it all fits, every piece of it. I could carry it, the whole set with me, hundreds and hundreds of blocks, dozens of maps, hundreds of tiles. I never use it.
You said Chain of Command. I think you meant Commands and Colors.
I meant Commands and Colors Napoleonics. I've been playing Chain of Command for 3 hours tonight. So yeah, I just don't anymore. So yes, I buy them to have them so I can give to the creators. I love the creators. I must respect them, and I don't steal. But by the same token, I just don't do it. But that's me. In the market, it has absolutely got to be 3D printing. It's ridiculous. I don't know what the long-term future. Look, I'm a miniatures gamer. That's what I love. That's what I prefer. I don't know what the long-term future of lead minis, metal minis for army purposes. I'm not talking about the people that do super cool dragons or all that stuff. Maybe they don't even have a future. I don't know. But minifigs and Ralpartha and Old Glory and Blue Moon, I think they are a Brontosaurus that is dying, that is dead, and the signal hasn't reached the brain yet.
Well, we could go for a couple hours on that. It's a shame we didn't have you and Ardwolf on here at the same time to argue about miniatures wargaming. But
what fight did he start?
Oh, just the fact that he thinks miniatures wargaming is silly. So,
well. As if that's the first thing he's been wrong about. Please go on.
So Chris, we got to get you into one of Jim's TTS games some night, don't we?
Look at him shake his head. Yes.
You're already playing. I mean, how many different Civ 6 games are you in right now?
3.
Whoa! 6? You're playing 6?
I am. Yes.
When did you convert? When I thought there would have been a memorandum.
Actually, it was Tuna's fault. He gifted me the base 6, and after having my ass handed to me for the umpteenth time in 4, I was like, well, try 6. Why not?
Really?
Yeah. I love it. It's great.
You're still going to get your ass handed to you in 6, by the way. Just so
wow.
That's not going to change.
No.
This is
so. That's what happens to me all the time.
I'm so not comfortable with this. A lodestar of my you notice how immediately I leapt to that.
Indeed,
a lodestar of my existence has changed, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I'm glad you like it. I cast aspersions on 6. I have very little tolerance for games when I send the saves and they corrupt.
I have had not experienced that, for which I am extremely grateful. I do have a rather fair record of winning, Sir Drinker up there to the north of me.
That's because he's unfamiliar with playing with humans.
Oh,
no, he's not. See, God. Okay, Brant. So we were talking about podcast topics. We need to have another solitaire podcast with Jim.
Can solitaire gaming?
We're leading the season off with that because we've got Liz joining us to talk about.
No. That's a
You're just trying to make Liz mad at me, and I won't have it. You hear me?
We can have the Liz, but we need the Jim podcast.
Yeah, no. I'm coming. I'll come. You know I'm not hiding from nothing. But I want it to be titled "Solitaire Gaming: The Story of the Lonelies."
That's fine. I'll tell you why it's not.
So
I recommend Friends.
Our boy Chris is he upgraded to 6 when he ran out of multiplayer opponents for 4 because everybody else moved to 6. And as we noted earlier, I think I've lost track, and Tuna or somebody probably Tuna, I'm not even sure is here. Maybe Mike can jump in and correct me, but I think we've got 7 different simultaneous Civ 6 Dragoons games going on right now. I'm only in 5 of them, but I think there's at least 2 going on that I'm not a part of. So we've got more than a couple of them happening right now, and anywhere from 4 players up to about 7 of us in one of them. So it's fun to have all those different games going. The only time it really becomes a headache is if you're playing the same civilization in more than one of them simultaneously, because then you sort of lose track of what's happening in which game. It's a lot easier when you're playing somebody different in all of them. That's my Spanish game. That's my Babylonian game. That's a little easier. But yeah, we're going to have to get our buddy Metal Dog into one of the TTS games some night, Jim. So y'all coordinate some scheduling there and let's make that one happen. So.
All right. Well,
yeah, come on, man. You got walk-on privileges. You shout, you come. You're welcome.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I'll give it a thought, and I love to play games. I mean, people always invite me to play poker because I bring my money. So what would be any different than coming to your TTS? So
he's a D&D guy, so maybe you should do Wizard's Quest again.
Oh, that Wizard's Quest was a good time. Man, I can't believe you're like the guy who remembers that. You notice I said the guy because I don't think there's anybody else.
It's not a bad game.
No, it's a wonderful game. True story. A good friend of mine was going off to college, and he said to me, Jim, the only thing I want is my graduation gift from you. I want you to host a game of Wizard's Quest and bring the booze. And so I set up a full bar. And for whatever reason, my best friend convinced him that the best idea in the world would be to drink vodka tonics. But to prevent a hangover, he told him, was to suck on limes. Oh. And so we played Wizard's Quest 4 times, didn't go to sleep, got up in the morning after like 2 hours of sleep. And I just get this phone call that I did not want to get because I wanted to sleep. And it was him. Now, this is the day before cell phones. He had pulled off to the side of the road just for the purpose of saying, you insert curse word here. I can still taste limes. And he hung up the phone.
Somebody was pranking him, weren't they?
Big time. And that's still a family joke. But no, I love Wizard's Quest. That's a drop of a hat game for me anytime.
What I remember watching that.
Best played with people.
I remember watching the first part of that stream actually, because that was at a period of time when our dishwasher was crapped out, and when I was using the utility sink in the garage to hand wash dishes, I would put my tablet up there over the sink, and I was watching either Moe's show for when Whiskey Charlie would be on, or I was watching you guys playing games or whatever. When there was no live stream going on, I'd usually pull up Battlestar Galactica reruns because the Sci-Fi Channel app was carrying them at the time. But I remember the Wizard's Quest one in particular from washing dishes and watching like the first hour of you guys playing that one.
It's a goodie.
Yeah, that was a fun.
Well, you know what we'll do? We'll get you into a game with Velker of The Creature Who Ate Sheboygan.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's a great old SPI game built around the fact that Gen Con was always held up here in Milwaukee, and they just came up with the idea of it's like Godzilla or King Kong or whatever, and they just decided instead of New York they would eat a little town a little bit up the road here called Sheboygan.
Yeah, so the kaiju attacks nowhere, Wisconsin.
Exactly. That's every time we've played it, people have a blast. We'll get you in on that. But no, seriously, if you got any kind of the old board games, a guy who loves to play the old board games actually is Vance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is always asking to play SPI games, Avalon Hill, just all that stuff. So.
Paul Rohrbaugh has done a very similar reboot of the Creature Ate Sheboygan. I'm going to hit the website right now so I can give you the exact name. But it's something like the Mahoning Monstrosity or something like that, where basically he has a toxic river creature attack his hometown.
There you go.
And look, he lives in Northeast Ohio. Toxic river creatures are easy to find. So I can't remember the specific names. I was going to try and grab his website and look it up. And it's taking me a second. There we go. So yeah, there's not only the Creature That Ate Sheboygan, but there's a more recent reboot of it as well. So Achilles sitting here trying to be a smartass. Jim, I will let you point out to Achilles that D&D is in fact a war game.
Oh no, we had this argument last night during our Dresden game, and he resisted it because he lives in fear. And I will say, and I actually almost posted this to my Twitter feed, and I'm going to post it to my Twitter feed. Not every Kriegspiel is a D&D game, but every single D&D game is a Kriegspiel. It's just true, and it's where Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson got the idea. That's provable. Yeah. I'm surprised that's even controversial. It's like if you think what a Kriegspiel is, it's a double blind game with an umpire, an all-knowing umpire who sees the world and describes the world, and you make actions and have combats and all this other stuff inside it. The umpire is the dungeon master. The players, and if you look at the 1824 Kriegspiel that the Two Fat Lardies put out, they actually had Bill Leeson come up with options for red, so that the umpire could run the other side against the players. What is that? It's Dungeons and Dragons with fancy hats. And Dungeons and Dragons has fancy hats.
Of course it does. So it absolutely does. There it goes. All right, I'm going to see if I can pull this up without completely breaking the screen or anything. All right, let's try and present share screen. And we're going to go to... All right, guys, we're doing this without a net because, again, as noted earlier, we rarely plan for these things. I'm going to see if we can actually get this shared correctly.
Not bad.
Wow. Nicely done.
All right. And
Science.
Yeah, add to stream.
There you go.
There it is, the Mahoning monstrosity. So monsters attack Youngstown. So
in 1977.
Yes. Paul
that
has
seems like it.
So there you go. And you've got various monsters to include the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. If you want to bring in the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you can.
So and Jimbo. I see Jimbo's there. That's excellent. Hey.
Yep. So there you go. A spiritual successor of, a current live in-print game that is a spiritual successor to Creature That Ate Sheboygan. So, yeah, Aaron, we appreciate you swinging by and stopping in and saying hi and everything. Yes, you do owe me an article for Unboxing Day, but don't sweat it. If you get it to me, great. And if you don't, we'll get you the next week. So, definitely a point here of miniatures won't disappear while tabletop RPGs are still going strong.
He's sitting right. How can you do this when he's sitting right there? Should I do this?
Yeah.
Should I do this?
He wants it on screen for posterity. Not only that, but
no. And I want to be clear. I stipulated to that.
Yes.
I said, I think the companies that do onesies and the cute little ones, yeah, they'll be fine. Although I think they'll shrink too, because eventually you'll be able to get pre-painted printed minis.
Well,
when that happens, it's ball game.
You go to Hero Forge now and do that. It's pricey, but you can do it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that cost has to come down.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm curious to see, though, Jim, I'm curious to see if and how 3D printing impacts your prediction of guys like Old Glory and our buddy David and Stennis over at the Wargaming Company, if it impacts their sales in the long run, if they don't end up making their money more on STL files and the rule sets than they do on actually shipping physical product to people.
Yeah, David, we had the podcast. David is the future. He is. David Ensness is our guy. He is, we've seen his minis. Mine are sitting right here somewhere.
Yeah, I was just looking for mine. I was going to hold them up for the camera.
They're awesome, and you should, if you are into small scale Napoleonics, you should buy them. They're the best going. But we'll see how he does, and I wish him every prosperity. I don't know. The old boys are going to hang out with Blue Moon and AB and Minifigs and Old Glory, and that's great. But that is if the reports from Historicon be true, that's going away too. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm across the room looking for those figs, and I can't find them, and it's just kind of irking me.
It's a little box.
Yeah, I know.
Big.
Part of the problem is it's too damn small.
They're only 10 millimeters.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where it went, but anyhow, I was looking for him. I was going to hold the camera and give Dave a little pub.
I think we tried very hard to give it to him.
We zoom in on the sideways pockets. Oh, there they go. He's got them. It's easier to see them if you take them out of the package. I'm just saying.
They don't have to paint
so
them. They don't want to do that.
Over the Wargaming Company, operational level Napoleonic minis Wargaming, and they finally started making their own minis, and these are some pretty damn cool looking minis. And I'm not a big Napoleonics guy. We all know that. I'm happy to play somebody else's Napoleonics game, but the minis that David sent us ahead of the conversation, they're the podcast conversation. There's some pretty cool minis. There's some pretty good looking stuff. So, Jim is trying to pick a fight.
Yes, they are better than the highly irregular scale chosen by Warlord to make money. Dirty scam artists.
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh, I got in trouble on my own stream because people were like, why are you being so mean to Warlord? It's like, first of all, it's the largest freaking miniature company in England. I'm pretty sure they can deal with it if a guy talking to his 12 viewers is mad at him. It's like, really?
Especially since we tend to include Warlord stuff literally every Tuesday over at our site.
Yeah,
because
they
they're
made
pretty
it obvious
reliable about spitting shit out consistently every week. So we've always got something to add.
They made an obvious choice to try to get a little special niche in the market, and fine, it's working for them, and they are lovely figs. I just think it's a scuzzy choice.
I am curious, Jim, that if you were going to play an epic scale Warlord game of Quatre Bras, how big does the table need to be?
Whose scenario? What rule set?
I'm more riffing on the Quatre Bras table size issue than anything else.
Oh, I see. You're being hurtful. Okay, very good. For those who don't know our little in joke, fair enough. We were playing, and colored bases are dumb, they're ugly and they disfigure things. You know I love you. You know I love you. No, it's Mr. Wargaming. You know I always got you, Wargaming. You know that. But yeah, no, it's but no, what the joke is we were playing a game, and I do believe it was Shako. And we were playing this game, and the one thing nobody could figure out was why the troops just weren't getting close to each other. We were an hour and a half, 2 hours into the game, and it made no sense. And finally,
still over yonder.
Oh yeah. No, we were over yonder.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I get out the ruler in TTS. I'm like, oh God, I built this table 2 times too big.
So it's like the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're charging the castle.
Would you believe that has since become the meme gif for exactly what happened of Lancelot charging the castle? Exactly. That sequence immediately awesome. Was played in the chat, and if you watch that video, which is on the channel, it's hysterically funny.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'm more
it's about 20 minutes from the end when everybody kind of realized, like Jim realizes it at first. And he's not sure whether or not to say something out loud, but then other people are sort of catching on to what Jim has figured out. And and it's it's kind of funny to watch everybody sort of realize it at the same time. It's sort of everyone coming out of the same mass psychosis. So,
yeah, it was it was terrible. It's terrible and it's funny. Was it Blucher? Okay. All right, so take a look for Quatre Bras. The Battle of Quatre Bras for Blucher on the channel, the first one, and the second one is noted with the correct table size, so you'll know you're looking at the wrong one. And as Brant says, if you want the humor, go to about 20 minutes left, and it'll start, and the laughter really builds from there.
Mike is claiming that Doug figured it out earlier.
No way he figured it out an hour earlier. No. He had begun to express doubts. I get that because he was actually the one that triggered it in me because I saw him measuring something and I couldn't figure it out. Ain't no hour. Stop it.
See, Chris, what you have to look forward to. Just, Jim, I do ask one favor on Chris's behalf. If you do actually get him into a TTS game, just please put him on the same side with Velker.
Hey, Velker, come here.
Don't have him charging Velker and have to suffer that fate.
Okay. Is that because you know how he rolls his dice? Is that what the problem is, Brand?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah,
Chris right there. He's going to be on your side.
No way.
There we go.
There you go. You two will be that'll.
As noted earlier on Twitter, you could give Velker D4s, be charging him with you rolling D12s, and it would still not end well for you.
Yeah, that's the comment.
Oh,
Was
hell
made
yeah.
that he was remembering the Austerlitz nightmare that he had.
Yeah.
So hey, that's
all good.
Yeah, that was quite the unfortunate day for the French Cav.
Yeah.
Hey man, I went down in a blaze of damn glory.
That's one lot. That's one because let's face it, why not?
I
was curious. I thought of you. I thought of you actually. I thought of you, Metal. Other than the fact that what Frank Zappa concert was I watching where I wanted to share it with you, but it was a really good one. But no, they're all good. But no, it was. Are you playing Baldur's Gate 3?
I am not playing Baldur's Gate 3, but I am seeing a lot of good stuff about it. People seem to be enjoying it very well.
Jim, he's in the control group, so no, he's not playing.
Oh, okay. He's one of the three. Yeah. No, my son and I, and eventually my best friend, we're all in a party together. So I was just curious because it is definitely top of class stuff. I was curious.
Yeah. So I'm not sure who else is sticking with us. We're past the 2-hour mark at this point, which is about 10 minutes longer than I was originally aiming to go. But quite frankly, like when you get a bunch of the Dragoons together and something to drink, we could go for several hours and have at many game conventions. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, except that some of us, unlike Mike, actually have to get up in the morning and get kids to school and go to work and yada, yada, yada. So, yeah.
Did you, Mike, did you finally get to retire?
Yes.
Oh, rock on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew you were
nothing accomplished for the past years because he's been.
I knew you were in the window.
I'm out of the window and wherever that led me.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've never. Well, whenever people come back to my office that have retired, I give them the standard instruction: don't talk to the current employees.
Yeah.
Although, I said earlier in this that the people who say, "Oh, when you retire, you have all this time to do whatever you want," that hasn't happened yet. So maybe next year.
Most of the ones that I know are Michael Hopper. Let me give him a shout out. If you watch this later and you are into Napoleonics and you want scenarios, get them from Michael Hopper. Michael Hopper just retired from his job in IT up in Canada. He is the best designer of scenarios for the Shaco system. If you see our Valor and Fortitude games, we're playing his scenarios every single time. He just retired this week. And he told me that part of his goal for his first year of retirement by Historicon of next year, he is going to have no fewer than 7 Napoleonic scenario books done.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's a bunch.
That's exciting. So it's going to your point. Sometimes the work even picks up, but maybe it's something you like a little bit more.
Yeah. So for the folks that are still here with us watching the show and the folks that maybe watching it after the fact, do appreciate you guys sticking around and helping us celebrate this 5th anniversary with the live stream here. It's been kind of a rotating cast, but that was the intent. We didn't want like 12 faces on screen all at once, again, looking like the Hollywood Square. So we figured we'd rotate some people through, grab some Dragoons, grab some people from the hobby world that folks would know, and have everybody come in and just chat a little bit about sort of what all's happened over the last 5 years. Because in a couple of cases, they've been pretty damn consequential. But that's been the span of time that we've had our doors open. And it just seemed like it was worth, taking a moment and being a little self-congratulatory, but okay, so what? Why not? Again, for folks that are in driving range and willing to come join us in October, we are holding our first in-person convention. We're hoping it's the first of quite a few, but, we'll have to see how this first one goes. And we are going to continue our support. We run the wargaming program at Origins, but our support of Buckeye Game Fest as well. And we'll see what else we pick up. I personally am hoping to make it to Circle DC this year. We'll see whether or not that comes to fruition. Jim, I don't think I can make Gamehole or Gary Con or any of the ones up in your neck of the woods anytime soon. It'd be nice, but
I have it. Unfortunately, Gamehole Con, which I would love to go to again, falls right during the city's budget season, where oddly enough, they put me on a short GPS tag loc. So it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you attempted to move 3 blocks outside of your house. Oh no.
Yeah.
You have something locked to your ankle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, the police
it's
work for him. You think he could get the ankle monitor off, but you know.
Yeah. Well, no, and I'll say this. I mean, if you're up this way, Gamehole Con, you will not go to a better game convention. You won't. Yeah. It's amazing who you meet there. Some of the absolute giants of the early days, and some of these guys. I mean, let's face it, Ernie Gygax ain't getting any younger. A lot of the guys that invented D&D are still there. A lot of the guys who brought Kriegspiel to the modern world, early wargaming. You can play Fletcher Pratt on you will play Fletcher Pratt on a hotel room floor, which is amazing. No, it's it's cheap, it's laid back. Well, it's not cheap, it's affordable. It's just great.
Yeah.
Which is why especially even their VIP stuff goes in an instant.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so it's great stuff.
So for again, for those of you that stuck with us through the show, we do appreciate you hanging out, and I hope you were able to enjoy a libation, given that this was happy hour and 2 or 2.5 or whatever we ended up with. And please, look, come hang out with it, whether you're engaging with us through our forums or the comments on our front page, or hop in our Discord, or just being snarky on social media like the rest of us. We are in a lot of different places, not necessarily because we're trying to take over the world, but because it's more places we can distribute our content and allow people to engage with us on a platform that they are comfortable with. So whether it's Mastodon or Blue Sky or Threads or whatever, you can find us in most of those places, and happy to have folks, come hang out with us. But the forums are kind of the lifeblood of where you're going to get a lot of that community interaction with a lot of the longtime Dragoons. And so if you get a chance to pop in there and say hi, a bunch of different game conversation and some other stuff. So, love to have you in there. It's one of the places Chris hangs his hat on a pretty regular basis and is in there all the time, especially as soon as a music topic pops up, Chris's antenna go off.
That's me.
He's ready to go.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm hoping Bob is watching this after the fact. It is well past his bedtime there in the UK. Unfortunately, just the timing of doing this, we weren't going to be able to get Bob on here. He's one of the other admins at the site. But we love all of y'all for the support of the Dragoons over the years. And here's hoping we're doing this again in another 5 years for our 10-year anniversary and do something a little bigger and snazzier. And maybe we have an in-person happy hour and just turn on a camera and live stream all of us in a room together. That'd be kind of cool too. So, audience, thank you very much for joining us, guys. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your night, especially Mike, taking a couple hours here. And for the rest of y'all, thank you for sharing some of your time with us. And come hang with us elsewhere. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.